Hello everybody and welcome back to Combe Valley Campers. Today we have got a very special episode with James from Raynes Automotive. We are going to go back to basics with leisure electrics in your camper van. I just want to take a moment to say thank you to our sponsors, Howden's Modified Van Insurance. That's right, A-Plan are now Howden's. They still do exactly the same in that they will insure your van from the time you buy it until you completely convert it into a camper van and beyond. And if you want an exclusive rate on your next policy, please mention Combe Valley Campers and they will sort you out. So, James, thank you so much for coming down. Really appreciate it. If you are new to the channel, we've had James on how many times?
2 or 3, I think.
2 or 3 videos,
yeah.
And we've explained different elements of the leisure system, right? So the battery, the charger, and solar, I think we did as well.
Panels. Yeah, we talked about different types of batteries.
Different types of bits and pieces. But what we want to do today, in the whole ethos of going back to basics and having a for beginners series of videos, we want to just go right back to basics. We're going to start talking about the leisure system, what it is, and just real grassroots back to basics, right?
That's right, yeah.
Super, cool. Well, I think let's take a look at everything we've got on the table and start explaining.
Perfect. So, this doesn't look simple. We've gone back to basics and it is, but it looks very complicated at the minute, but we are going to talk you through everything that you need for leisure electrics in a camper van, or electrics in general in the camper van in the back half. Effectively, what you need is, this is the bit that you want to use, the USBs, the lights, you want to use the power. So we need somewhere to store the power and a way of getting the power. Storing the power takes place here in a battery. This
We've
could
got
be small.
The leisure battery is the start.
The leisure battery, that is where we store our power. And that can be an AGM battery like we've got there, that can be a lithium battery, that can be multiple, you know, how much you store is a different question. We have a store, and then we use the power with our appliances. So the other thing we need to do in that system is to get the power back into the battery, or charge it. There's 3 different ways of charging a leisure battery that are commonly used. We have this one here, which is charging from your alternator,
right?
DC to DC charger, in this case, because it's a newer van. We have this one here, which is a solar panel and the solar charger. And then over there by yourself and by the battery, we have a mains charger. Now that takes campsite or shore power or generator or some sort of external 240 volt source and converts it to charging your battery.
Super. Okay, so I think let's start here. And then we'll roll forward and get to the light, right? Super. Cool.
Right.
In the sense of going back to basics, I'm going to be customer to you now. Okay. I have just bought myself a VW transporter.
Cool.
Okay. I want to go camping every other weekend. I like going to campsites with a hookup point. I like going to festivals for the weekend where there might not be hookup. And I also like camping all year round. And the utilities I have, I'd like to have a fridge or cool box in my van. I have a laptop to charge. I have cameras and drones to charge. What is the thing I need to have in my van in order to power that equipment and survive for a weekend at a festival with all of that equipment?
So for any appliances, be it the ones you've listed or anything else, they require power, energy to run. And like we said, the energy is stored in the battery. That is the battery's prime and only job. It takes energy, it holds it for when we need it later. So
this is the start of any
That's the center
system
point of any
in a van.
System.
I need somewhere, if I want to use electrical energy in my van, I want to store it.
Yes.
Okay, so I start with a leisure battery of some form.
That's a really good, the leisure battery is a really good starting point, and it has it has power going into it, and it has power coming out of it.
Cool.
So it is the center of everything. It is whatever you're using elsewhere will be based and dependent on the battery. And the battery you choose is dependent on your personal use of the vehicle and the appliances, like you've told me there.
Okay.
You sort of,
so a basic rule of thumb is, the more appliances I have and utilities I have within my van, the more power I may require.
potentially, number of or use of.
Okay.
So it's a mixture of how much power each appliance uses.
Yep.
And how much you're using that, and then the cumulative effect of all of the appliances in the van. So like a light, it's quite a low powered item. That could be on for days and days off of a single charge. If you have maybe a pretty inefficient old school cool box with a cigarette light plug on it, that could be on, and your a battery of that size, that might last 12 hours. Yes, there's quite a difference based on the power each thing uses. But that all centres back to how much power actually is stored within your battery.
Okay.
And then once the battery is depleted, or down, or drained, or used, or however one wants to phrase it, we then need to think about putting power back into the battery.
Okay, because if I just had, let's say, my phone, my laptop, and a light charged in, plugged into this through the means we'll talk about later, this isn't going to last forever. No. Like my phone battery, the more I use it, the more often I'll need to charge it. And the same will go for a leisure battery.
Precisely.
Super. So my phone at home, I plug it into the wall and I have a lead that goes into the bottom.
Correct.
How can I charge my leisure battery?
Great. Yes. So there's three primary methods of charging a leisure battery. And three, basically, we want to get the power from somewhere. So that power may be stored it may be the sun via a solar panel. It may be stored in your diesel tank that then goes through the alternator and into the battery.
Yeah.
Or it may be stored externally in the grid, or in a campsite hookup, or a generator, or an adapter lead at home.
So I'm taking energy from elsewhere and then using some of this equipment that we have in front of us. I want to feed it back into the battery so I can then feed my appliances.
That's right. Yeah.
Super.
So it's just a question of which combination of external energy we want to bring into that central power store or battery.
Okay, so if we're starting from the right here,
Yeah.
I have a blue Victron item, and from what I can tell from this end and this end, that is a charger that I would plug into the wall.
Correct.
Right, so that is the first means we can use to charge that battery, is by quite simply a charger.
Yeah, that's right. So if you have within the van a traditional campsite hookup system, blue plug on the outside, lead to a post, very familiar to most people who have touched base on a campsite before. That will live somewhere in your van, out of the way. You're not going to see it, you're not going to really interact with it. And those will be wired onto the DC leads, or the red and blacks, are going to be wired onto your battery, and that plug will be plugged into a socket in your cupboard. When you plug in on the campsite, charger goes, brilliant, I'm plugged in, I shall start charging.
Super.
And then energy goes back into your battery until you either unplug or your battery is full.
Super. So leisure battery can get charged by, let's call this method number one, which is a 240 or mains to 12 volt charger. Super. Correct. And that can be incorporated into my van at only one time when I'm building it, or can I retrofit these?
Super easy to retrofit. Electrically, not a problem at all. You just need to be able to have a plug socket in the van you can plug it into, and be able to get the leads onto your battery.
Cool.
The only problem ever arises from if you don't have physical space for it.
Okay, super. But it's a nice small unit, and you don't necessarily have to go for a posh blue Victron one, but a 240 to 12 volt charger is method number one of charging that battery. No different to me plugging my lead, my telephone charger into the wall at home and charging that battery.
It's
super.
The most familiar, most relatable,
arguably
most reliable and consistent, but probably least convenient.
Okay.
choice.
least convenient.
Maybe just because you have to be at a campsite to use it.
Understood.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Once you're at a campsite, it's extremely convenient, but it does limit where you can stop to access charge.
Okay.
Whereas the other methods we're going to go on to later are a bit more conducive to off-grid.
Okay then. So method number 2, you said converting the power from the energy stored in the diesel, which will run the engine and in turn the alternator, and then charge this battery. And what we find in camper vans is that is probably the most common way to charge this battery.
Yes. Yeah, almost all conversions that we see or deal with will have that in some element, some way of using the alternator from the engine to charge the leisure battery whilst the engine is running.
Okay. And out of the pieces of equipment I have in front of me, which one of those pieces of equipment am I looking at?
Yeah, so in this case, it is this one, this big shiny blue box mounted on the 12-volt board.
Yeah.
This is a DC to DC charger.
Okay.
Which basically, ignoring technical stuff, means if this is connected and wired up, when your engine is running, you will be charging your leisure battery.
Okay. So this is, and I remember from a previous video we did on a split charge system.
Yeah.
This is a more modern, clever version, in a way, to take the charge from a vehicle battery and then forward it onto the leisure battery.
That's absolutely correct.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's a big switch.
Yeah, it's a
very clever switch.
It's a big switch, but it's also, if you picture the charger we spoke about a minute ago, that's a charger with all of the bits of charging that one needs, but its input source is a 3-pin plug.
Yes.
So its input source is mains electricity. This is very similar, but this input source is an alternator.
Okay.
So once you get into the charger, the job is very similar. It's just where is that charger taking its power from is the difference between the two. And you would often find both in a van. You wouldn't very often find just the mains or just the 12 volt. You can do, but it's very typical to find both. Both
a 240 or mains and this charger. Right. And what I want to point out, although effectively I'm playing the customer here and James is playing the expert, which he is, which is why he's here, what we will do is go a bit deeper into how these are connected to the van a bit later on. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, that sounds fair. Yeah, we can.
Super. Okay, so we've had method number 1, the input source being the mains. Method number 2, the input source being the vehicle and the alternator.
Correct.
What is our third one, and which out of these bits of equipment are we going to use?
So for continuity, we'll start here, which is a MPPT or a solar controller. That is the solar equivalent of the other 2 chargers we spoke about. Very familiar, output is red and black leads that go to the battery. Only in this case, the input source is the sun, or what we have of it when it's out. And that's via a solar panel.
That's a very good point in this country.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not as good as it could be, but it can still be a pretty useful method of charge. So this would be sunlight hits the panel, power goes from the panel into the controller, from the controller to the battery. Really good, low grade, continuous, not dependent on engines or external plugins for that source. So it can really help.
So the person who would use that may be somebody who's sat at a location for more than a couple of days, or just likes to know that their battery is topped up continuously by the energy coming from the sun. So having a solar panel, an MPPT controller and a leisure battery, connected to the leisure battery will continuously charge this.
Yeah, as long as there is daylight, you will get some kind of charge. Now, season, location, that time of day will dictate, and then weather will dictate how much charge you get, but you'll be getting something from, half an hour after the sun rises in the morning to half an hour before it sets, something like that.
Super. Now, a quick question to you. All these systems are independent of each other. Can they all be connected to the battery at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they can.
Right.
There's no harm in them all being wired into one system and onto the battery, and it doesn't require any user intervention to switch between them. You know, typically you're not likely to be plugged into the mains and have your engine running at the same time, but they will work together to charge your battery, and they don't, provided when they're all set up correctly, they all work together.
So I can literally have all 3 of these terminals plugged in to the battery.
Yeah.
There's not one for here at this minute.
Off this bit of the board here.
Oh, okay. I can have all 3 of these connected to that battery at the same time, and they will all work together on their own and figure each other out to provide a continuous safe charge to this battery.
Correct.
Super. Okay. Well, that's cleared it up for me. I hope it's cleared it up for you at home, in that there is a leisure battery that will be the storage point of the energy you require on a day-to-day basis within your vehicle, be it a camper, motorhome.
Yeah, this principle works for anything off-grid.
Yeah.
So this can be primarily used in camper vans, but this can be an off-grid cabin, it can be a boat. You know, the principle of a battery stores the energy that you are going to need until you are next at a point where you can recharge. And obviously sometimes we would bring more continuous methods of charging to reduce that time between when you can next charge, then that decreases the size of the battery.
Is there any limit on how many batteries I can have in my vehicle?
Not really. The limit you will find is basically going to be physical space, budget, and or weight.
Okay.
Those are the limits, basically dependent on your needs.
Okay, and depending on the needs of the battery, you can get different versions of a DC to DC.
That's correct, yeah.
So you can get bigger or smaller variants?
Yeah, that's actually the smallest we have, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the chargers are sized to the battery to provide an appropriate amount of charge for that battery.
And the same goes with solar. Is there any limit in reality to the solar I have? Or that I can put on my vehicle?
Yeah, so you've got the physical space limit that you'll have on the roof. Can you actually fit these panels on there? With roof vents, maybe aircon units, all size of van. So that's one limiting factor. The other one is the battery, actually. So you don't want to charge any battery too fast. It's not good for the battery's lifespan. So if you had this battery, we probably wouldn't want to put 4 of these panels on the roof, because when the sun comes out, it's not good for the battery.
Understood.
So there's a little bit, it's not a rigid ratio, but there is a little bit of pairing between charger and battery of various sorts.
And if anybody has any questions regarding that and the setup within your van, it's exactly why we have James here. Rayne Automotive is your company that you supply all of these parts for. And so people who are watching this can contact you and say, I've seen your video or I've heard of you. I would really like some advice on how much I require and can you supply the bits and pieces?
Yeah.
So that's why we have James here for a start. But because there are variables, you can't just go in and have 5 solar panels and 1 battery.
Yeah,
you can't, or you don't expect to have the most efficient source of charging from your solar panel to 12 AGM batteries. We need advice from somebody such as yourself to get the ratio of those elements correct for a safe, reliable system.
There's balance. There's balance.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is about balancing what you need, and I think later on we're going to delve into how to work out what that balance is for you. But yeah, it is important to keep it somewhat balanced for the longevity of the components and also the usability of the system. You know, if you have a solar panel this big and 500 amps of battery, it's not going to be very user friendly, because once that battery is depleted, you'd be in the sun for a year before they're recharged. You know, whereas if you had something like this, you might take a day or 2 to recharge that battery. It is about balance.
Super. So we are very happy with the 3 different types of charging methods we have here now. So we have the MPPT, the mains, and the DC to DC.
Yep.
That's how we get power into the battery.
Yep.
How do I now safely get power out of that battery to my charging points, to my lights, to my cool box, to my induction hob, etc., etc.?
Yes. So again, that is about balance and picking the right components. The first thing to work on is the voltage of the component, which sounds technical, but basically anything that is like this light, your cool box, they're going to be 12 volt, same as the battery, which means that we can just run them through this fuse box on here.
So that is a lead coming directly from the battery.
Yep. To the fuse, in this case, to the board. But we can put this fuse box in without this board on it. We can just put a fuse box there and run cables from your battery to the fuse box, cables from the fuse box to the appliance. And
this just distributes everything safely.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. We put a fuse in for each circuit, each appliance that is appropriately rated so that any faults blow the fuse, not damage the cables or anything else in the line.
So from my battery, goes from this fuse box, and then using the wiring, it will go directly to the element. Is there anything in between the wiring and the light, or the wiring to the utility that I might want to put in? Like a switch or some sort of relay? Or
if you have anything that you wish to control on or off, you might want to put a switch in. So this light is a touch light, so we don't need a switch to that. That's just cable. The USB the same, but if we had a non-touch sensitive light, if we just went cable fuse box, that light would be on all the time. So then we'll, effectively we'll go from a cable from there to a switch to a light. And then the switch controls whether the light is on or off.
So when people may have seen a control panel in their camper van or in other people's camper vans, there's a bank of switches, and that is the point between your fuse panel and the utility that you might have in there, and that can independently switch them on.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so that just sits physically and literally between the fuse and the appliance to control it.
Super. Okay. Just trying to think what else we can discuss regarding that, because for this stage, I thought we were going to get a bit more in depth, and we will get a bit more in depth later, but using these boards here and what we've got in front of us is actually quite simple, isn't it, really? There's not a great deal to do. So I mean, like when we supply these boards, they come with these plugs on. These have only got a few cables in, so as to not make the table look indecipherable. But these just plug into this board, and then they distribute all of the wirings pre-wired, pre-cabled through to the appliance. So that it has, as purchased, this board takes most of the wiring out. Yeah.
Otherwise, you are absolutely free to wire, battery to fuse, to isolator, to fuse box. And then there's a couple of other goodies on the back that you might want to go through.
And this is something else we really wanted to talk about here as well. If you are confused about any of your system, and you're not keen on wiring it yourself, James and the team at Rayne Automotive have come up with these fantastic modular boards that take all the hard work out for you. So although I've just said, oh, it's quite simple, if we take one look at the back of this, I've done it wrong, haven't I?
That's right, it just comes up square.
There we go. If we take one look at the back of that, although it seems nice and simple at the front, with your DC to DC controller, which we spoke about earlier, and your fuse panel, there's a lot going on the back. We've just spent a considerable amount of time learning how we can charge our battery, our source of energy within the camper. I still haven't got to the point where it's going to power my USB, my light, or my cool box, or whatever I've got. How do I go about that, and what is that?
Cool. So how to take power out of a battery, or why you would want to, what you might use it for, and how to do it. So we've got battery, and then we've got the big chunky leads coming out and into here. As far as taking power out of the battery is concerned, this power board is just a really user-friendly way to install a fuse box, an isolator switch, and on the back side that we might look at in a bit, there's a low voltage cutout and some monitoring.
Okay, so going back to my statement right at the beginning of the video, I'm somebody who's just bought a van. It's my first time. I want to know, well, I want to try and do as much of it as I can, but I don't know what I'm doing. Is this what I was to buy or to use to help it simplify for me? Or?
This is a simplified version of 12 volt electrics. This kind of contains the hardware of your 12 volt electrical system. So it contains the top half of this board is concerned with taking power out of the battery.
Yep.
So that is a fuse box to protect your circuits, keep things safe.
Yep.
That is an isolator switch to turn it off when you don't need it or when someone's working on the van. And then distribution, the rest of it. So that is a way of taking the power from these thick chunky leads, breaking it down into thin leads that are going to run across to things that you actually want to use as the end user in the van.
Okay.
Does that make
some degree of sense? And I'm trying to think of it as simply as possible for not only myself but for you at home as well. I have this located at one point in my van.
Yep.
I have this located at another point. It doesn't have to necessarily be convenient, but a usable place in my van. I can hide it away, can I?
Yep.
So I can hide that away somewhere in my van. I only need these two leads from my battery.
Correct. In this setup, that's all you need.
Okay, they then connect to these 2 points.
Yep.
And then I can take power out of this panel.
Yeah, the pre-wired nature of this just simplifies what the installer, be it someone you're paying to or if you're competent and fancy a go at it doing yourself, it just simplifies what they're going to do. Because it means they are making less connections because they're all factory connections, they're making less things. It's just quicker and more replicatable, more guaranteed sort of thing.
Okay, so I want to plug in a light or a USB into this system. It's coming from this, which is the fuse panel. Is that
correct.
Right?
Yep. So this power goes in through the board, through the isolator, through the fuse.
And the isolator is this point here that I can just turn on and off.
Yep, correct.
Cool.
And then eventually it ends up here at the fuse box.
Yep.
Via this cable that you can see just on the top edge here. And then it's split into 12 circuits. So up to 12. You do not have to use all 12. That is 4.
There's only 4
Yeah,
so far.
we're only using 4 in here because we've got a really simple van.
But if okay, cool, that's right. That's what I've brought with me is a very simple van. I need a USB, a light socket, and then somewhere to plug in my cool box, which is maybe like a cigar lighter.
If you've got something simple and efficient like that. Yeah, and that is it. And on the back of this board, which I'm going to elegantly try and show now. Here we go.
Super.
You'll see the cables are just plugged into these multi-plugs, and that is just purely simplicity of installation. Is why we've done that.
So that's like a plug I'd find on the back of my car stereo. It's just one way. It's going to go in only one way.
Yeah. You can't plug them in wrong as long as you're matching up the negative wires, the black wires to the black wires, and the red to the red. And
super.
Then you are going to be able to just plug this in, and then the power goes off to your various things, which when we put this back together and put the isolator on, should now work. And once this is in, you don't need to be taking this apart all the time. Or really, realistically ever, apart from just maintenance schedules, the only time you're going to take this off to inspect.
Okay, so I'm screwing this to the inside of my van.
Yeah.
I'm locating my battery to somewhere inside my van.
Yeah.
I'm connecting them together. I've got my leads and then my light.
Correct.
That's it.
That's it. That is the way of taking 12 volt power, a way of taking 12 volt power from your battery to some way you want to use it.
And so now,
there you go.
We have lights on. This is a touch light.
Yep.
And just to show you how simple it is, if I flick that off, that's the isolator. That basically turns off the battery from this panel. If I turn that back on, that's the same. And to make it even more simple, if he takes that fuse out, remember which one now?
That's why I'm taking them both out.
There you go. And you can see the circuit that this should be connected to because there's a red light on this fuse panel that says I've not got a fuse in, or the fuse is blown.
Yeah.
So we know that this one's now going to turn on this light, so we can dump those both back in. Boom.
There we go.
Super. Battery, fuse panel, utility, or item that you want to power.
Be it hardwired, switched, or removable, like a 12 volt socket or a USB.
Super. Okay. So thank you for clearing that up. That is power coming from my battery to power up the items that are 12 volt.
Yeah. 12
such as
volt
LEDs,
items.
USB sockets, cigar lighters, and a lot of camper van items you will find are 12 volt, like cool boxes, like TVs.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get 12 volt.
Diesel heaters, things like that. They're all 12 volt, and as long as you have the right cable and the right fuse, you will power those. And this, for example, being a 12 gang fuse panel, there's room for expansion, there's room for the future within that. Is that about right?
Yeah, yeah.
Super, okay. Well, I've had a couple of months of using my camper van. Story time now. I've now had a couple of months of using my camper van. I feel that I need more than just 12 volts. I think I'm ready for 240 volt within my van because I want to I don't want to cook on gas anymore.
Okay.
I'd like to cook maybe using an induction hob or an air fryer.
Yep.
Can I use my battery to power that, or do I always have to hook up?
You can do it through hookup.
Yep.
You can use a battery to do that, not this battery, unfortunately. So it's going to be
But I can use 12 volt
Yes.
in a van to power something such as a cooking utensil.
Yeah. So the utensils you're talking about are going to be mains voltage, so they're going to be 240 volt items. They are not, if you just ran one of these cables and plugged it into it, it's not going to work. It's not the way to do it. We need to bring another device into the circuit, which is going to take our battery power here at 12 volts as it's stored. So it will be stored at 12 volts. And then we need to do a two-step transformation process, which we don't need to do. It's done inside what we're going to put on the bench in a minute. And then the output to that is 240 volts AC, as we would find in our plug socket in the wall.
Okay, so it's possible for me to have 240 or mains power within my van without actually needing to plug into an exterior hookup like at a campsite.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Show me how.
Whilst there is power in your battery and your battery is capable of running that, you can get that output.
Yeah, I want to see this.
Cool.
Show me how we do it.
Right, shall we reconfigure, get some new stuff on the bench and talk through it?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
We've covered our charging on the battery.
Yep.
We've covered how to use the 12 volt side on the battery. I would like to know how we're going to use 240 volt within my camper van. How can we do that?
Brilliant. Okay, so 240 volt in the camper van. You've got two different ways of acquiring that power. The output is the same, 3-pin plug. So normal, conventional 3-pin plug.
Yep.
Right? That's the output that you want. That's what you've asked me. How do I plug in my common uses, laptop, maybe a toaster, maybe an induction hob, sort of going up in power as we talk.
Yep.
The principle is the same. You've got your shoreline input or your mains inlet, which we've got
So
here.
people may refer to that as a hookup lead
might
or a
do.
shoreline.
Yeah, or that's it. When we were talking earlier about external 240 volt power. It's not stored within the van. It's just in and direct use in the van. That's this one here. So we can plug this into our consumer unit board that we've got here, but we won't do that just yet. The other
So to clarify, I can bring in 240 volt mains power into my camper.
Yep.
And that is through effectively an extension lead that plugs into my van from the hookup point at my campsite.
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. And so then it will go into this consumer unit.
Yep.
And then from this consumer unit, it will go to my mains plug that's within the van, yeah?
Correct, yeah.
Super, okay.
Yeah. And that's a direct.
So that's option number one,
kind of thing.
mains within my camper van.
Yeah.
Cool.
Option number two is what the rest of this potentially slightly more complicated looking stuff is.
Yeah.
Which is basically, we want this setup we've got here is to use the power stored in the battery.
Yeah.
In this case, we've swapped it for a high-powered lithium battery.
Yes.
Because it stores more energy. And
so we've removed the AGM battery
Yeah.
that we had previously from this equation.
Yep.
Although it is possible to use an AGM battery and an inverter.
It is, but only up to a certain intensity of power.
Okay.
Only up to a certain wattage.
Okay, so if I was to say keep that AGM battery,
Yeah.
without trying to confuse this too much, the system we had set up,
Yeah.
I can still plug an inverter into that,
Yeah.
but it would only go as far as charging, say, a laptop.
Yeah, a laptop or maybe a small travel kettle for occasional use.
Right.
You don't necessarily need to spend the money on all of these things for low power or occasional medium power.
Okay, perfect. So I couldn't plug in a microwave to it, I couldn't plug in a hob to it, but I could plug in my mains laptop charger in there. Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is better suited to rather than you can't.
Okay, cool. But what we have here, I've upgraded my AGM battery that we saw previously.
Yeah.
I've now gone and bought a lithium battery, which this is,
Yes.
which means I can now facilitate a large inverter
Yes.
and run something like a kettle or a toaster off it.
Yeah.
And so-
kettle, toaster.
I just said this is an inverter, but what have we got to get to this point?
Right, yeah, so we've got battery, we've got what you will notice are some decidedly thicker cables.
They are
because
some
they are
beefy cables.
Yeah, they are carrying more power. That's why they're thicker, they are taking more power, and we want that to still remain well within the cable's capability. So we use a thicker cable.
Yeah.
So we come through there and we've come out through the cables, along through, we've got an isolator switch in there for maintenance, installation, that kind of thing. And that's in the positive side. Then those come into the inverter. So they are going to carry the energy stored in the battery and deliver it to the inverter.
So like we saw the 2 leads from the other battery to the fuse panel,
Yes.
we've got 2 leads to the inverter.
Correct, yeah, they are the DC power in, or battery power into the inverter.
Cool.
Then the inverter does all the stuff that we don't really need to worry about why, but crucially the output for the inverter is AC 240 volt. So that's coming in this blue cable here. So that is now mains cable, that is 3-core, it is AC.
Household.
Yeah, it's flexible, it's slightly different, but yeah, the electricity is comparable. And that comes out and into here, and then when we plug this feed that goes to the socket in, to the little quick release plug on the side of this board.
And we'll look at this in a minute.
There we go. So now we've got AC output,
Yep.
come through here, through fusing protection there, and then from there to a socket, which is neatly connected to the toaster. So once we turn the inverter on, and it's turned on, we just wait a few seconds, they take a little while to come on, but once we've got this green light here,
Yep.
we're on, our fuse is up, so if we press the button down on the toaster, rather
that's on.
unvisually
Well, it's held down, so that's a
held
good
down,
start.
yeah,
Well, I can hear that making noise.
yeah, it's just a very gentle hum.
I can see that going orange, and I can certainly feel the heat coming out of it.
Yeah. So what we're now doing is, as what's happening as we speak here, is power is coming out of the energy store, the battery. It's coming down the cables into the inverter, being converted up to mains power, so from battery power to mains power, and then just going through some safety, some protection
Super.
off to the socket. And that is how you use battery power to run mains appliances in there. And again, drawing back to what we were saying earlier, it is all about balance in terms of what load you want to run,
Yeah.
what size inverter that's going to need, what size battery is suitable to run that. And that the size of battery, there's a minimum to run it in. If you want to run that toaster for 1 minute,
Yeah.
you still need a battery of a reasonable quality. But if you want to run that toaster all day, you just need a bigger and bigger battery, right?
Okay.
It's just balancing what
So
you
it's
need.
knowing
as the
your
output.
requirements and
Yeah.
buying the equipment to suit.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
its simplest form.
Yeah, if you know what your output is, you work backwards
Yeah.
towards what equipment you need to
Yeah.
run that output.
Now, going back into normality, I actually have this very setup in my own camper van Bully. If you've seen Bully on a previous video, you'll see that mounted under the seat is effectively this setup. In fact, that battery right there, we've pulled out of my camper van for this video, but I have this exact inverter, I have this exact consumer unit. That's right, I said that right?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is this system works. Whilst we've been on holiday, whilst we've been traveling around Europe, I have safely and effectively run a kettle, a toaster, an induction hob, and even an air fryer.
Yeah.
And that does raise some eyebrows when you're at a campsite in France in a 40-year-old camper and your air fryer goes ping and you're making frozen chips. But it's a very cool thing to be able to do. Now, it's quite an upgrade, isn't it, in terms of your battery 12-volt USB, but it just shows you what is possible. Because, and if we're going back to story time, I have upgraded from my AGM battery. I now want to camp out for longer and with more equipment and for in different situations. So I've upgraded my battery, I've upgraded my inverter, and this is the situation we've got. So what a fantastic thing you're able to do. I think it's a really, really good set of equipment, and the proof is in the pudding. I'm making my toaster work right here with nothing but what is on this table. Which is very, very cool. And once again, this is one of your modular units that you make to make this job a lot simpler.
Yeah, it's just what it is it's an internally pre-wired consumer unit, which just allows us to use these quick release plugs to bring either the mains in or the socket out, like I just did. And then it just speeds up and simplifies the installation. It doesn't make it completely foolproof. It's still electricity, it's still potentially dangerous. We still need to be doing this in a way that's safe and have the people who, have someone who knows what they're doing do it, because even as easy as it gets, it still needs caution, it's still electricity.
Okay, so we've now seen the modular parts for everything. We've gone through charging, we've gone through consumption, we've gone through changing the voltage so we can have mains utilities. I think what we can do to sort of wrap this up right now is connect all of those elements together. What do you think? Let's connect all of those elements together and then we can see the whole system from start to finish. So it's a visual representation for everybody at home watching of what the system is without it being actually installed in a van, and that's why we've done this today, so you can see it. We took feedback from one of our previous videos. You appreciated seeing everything on a table rather than in a van. So I think let's take 5 minutes out. Let's rearrange all of this and let's charge the battery, use the battery in 12-volt form, use the battery in 240-volt form, and then we can see it all visually in one space.
Sounds good.
Lovely. See you in a second. So there we have it. Everything we've spoken about today is right here on the table in front of us. We have, and if I move over here, the front of the van, let's call it. We're going to call this the front of the van. In a lot of cases, the battery, the leisure battery, is under a driver's seat or similar. And then we have all of what looks very complicated stuff. And by the end of it, we've got a 12-volt light, our USB, and our 240. But in reality, because we've spoken about every element, it's all, well, relatable now. We know what's what.
That's right. So we've got, like you say, energy stored. Methods of charging, distribution, transformation, basically fancy words for getting that energy into a way we want to use it.
Perfect.
When you go past this point, this is actually what the camper van owner, the end user, you want electricity for.
So in reality, as a camper van owner or builder, camper van builder, because we're talking to you at home, we want to build your own camper van. You don't need to see anything from this line onwards, and you don't want to see anything from this line onwards on a day-to-day basis. You want to see your light, you want to see your USB socket, and you want to see a 240-volt socket so you can use these things.
Correct, And this looks like loads and loads of gear in the middle here, but this is quite a complicated, big system for a gasless camper van that we're displaying here. So it won't always look as massive
And I think what you've just said there is where a lot of people are going nowadays, is having a gasless camper van because of the advance in technology regarding lithium batteries, and because they get more popular, the price has gone down. Therefore, lithium batteries, of which that is, are now more affordable in the quantities and the capacities that we can use them within a small space like a camper van.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the amount of power going into a battery and the amount of pounds you have to pay per unit of power is coming down. The space is coming down. It's easier now than it was 2 years ago. It will be easier in 2 years' time from now.
Yes.
To go, I don't want a gas bottle, I don't want that, I just want to go. Because it's not only the hob that you get to ditch with that, like you were saying earlier with the air fryer, and the all-round capacity of the system goes up. The fact that you can use your laptop, you can work off-grid for days, all these things that, it might be the induction hob that's the catalyst for changing to a gasless fan, potentially. But all the other stuff that comes along with that, because your system is at a level that can support that, is also beneficial.
In the grand scheme of things, is this regarded now as quite a simple system? I know it's not the cheapest system, but is this regarded as a simple system? Because we're not talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of amp hours worth of charge, like capacity. We don't have 15 solar panels, we have one. We don't have 10,000 watts of inverter, we have 2. Because we've removed the gas and the potential, I'm not going to say dangers, complications of gas.
Yeah, the gas properly installed is fine.
We've now whittled down all of our system into this. So in reality, it's quite a simple system. There's no extra controllers, there's no intelligent bits and pieces. It's just 3 forms of charging, which is a DC to DC charger, or in very simple terms, a method of split charge. We have an MPPT controller and a solar panel.
Correct.
Number 2. And number 3, we discussed earlier in the video using a 240 to 12 volt charger, but we can dismiss that now we have this piece of equipment, because this is an inverter charger combined into one box. But there's still 3 methods of charging. DC to DC, MPPT, which is solar, so car, vehicle battery, solar panel, mains charging.
Correct.
3 elements of charging and 2 methods of use.
Correct.
12 volt, distributed by a 12 volt fuse panel. And 2 40 volt mains distributed by this inverter charger.
Yeah, that's correct, because basically the power comes into here either from the mains hookup itself, so external power, or the battery. They both come into here, and this has got a switch inside it that basically says, you know, either or, I'm going to power those output sockets.
Right.
So there's not, you don't have to come in and turn switches, you don't have to unplug stuff and plug it in somewhere else. You will get power at those output sockets if that inverter is on, and there's power in your battery, or you're plugged into a campsite.
Perfect. Should we see if it works?
Why not?
Excellent. So, I can already tell that my USB socket is working because it's got a very dim blue light there, but it signifies that that's on. I have, is that, no, it's not on. There you go. My LED light is on.
Cool. So that's our 12 volt.
12 volt sorted.
Working.
Now I need to check if my mains is working. So I need to hit the isolator. Oh, it's on.
Yeah, we're on already.
So we're on, the inverter light's on, the 240 volt socket is on, and in this situation we have an induction hob. So if I press that button, that was the beep, it's got a flashy light. And there we go. I don't have a pan to put on it.
No.
That you can hear the fan running, the induction hob is on.
Cool.
We also have the kettle. If I was to unplug that and plug that in, hopefully we should see an orange light on the kettle. Yeah, there we go, orange light down there. I will turn that off because there's literally no water in it. And we plugged in the toaster earlier. So now I have a completely gasless, off-grid.
I mean, from the minute you put a battery in, you have an element of off-grid.
Yep.
It is just a continuous line of how much power do I need in total for my trip. And then you go back from that to how much solar do I want to put on? How much power is that going to give me? What's the remainder? That's stored in my battery.
Perfect. That has taught me a lot today as a novice. I hope that has taught you guys today at home as people who want to learn more about the basics of a leisure system for your camper van. I'd love to know from you guys actually if you prefer things being laid out in this manner. Rather than me showing you inside a camper van, we've got it all laid out on the table, so it should be, hopefully, fairly easy to understand.
Yeah, that's certainly the idea.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it, really happy with how today's gone. I want to say thank you to you.
No, thank you.
Very good to have you down again. Fantastic that you've now created all of these modular elements that people can simplify their installation in just these parts.
That's it.
And they're all available from you
Yep.
at Rayne Automotive, as well as heaps of other parts and advice as well. So where is the best place people can find you?
So visit us on our website, rayneautomotive.co.uk. That's Rayne with an R-A-Y-N-E.
Yep.
Automotive.co.uk. On there you're going to find this stuff, you're going to find our contact details, you're going to find loads of guides, loads of information basically, but start there and whatever we're up to in them days, you'll find it there.
Perfect. We exclusively use Rayne Automotive gear for our builds. We sell Rayne Automotive gear. If you've got a split charger, or you've bought a split charger, you've bought some lights, you've bought some cable, you've bought batteries from us, it is all via James and his team over at Rayne Automotive. So once again, thank you very much. We absolutely love your gear. I've been using James at Rayne Automotive for 6-7 years, we spoke about earlier.
Yes, it's got to be at least that.
So, and I've never used anybody else, certainly for the wiring and the looms you provide. So once again, thank you very much. To everybody at home, I hope you like the video. I hope you like this introduction into 12-volt systems, leisure systems, and how they're used. So if you did like the video, tell us why down in the comments. Give the video a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this moving forward, be sure to hit the notification bell. And if you'd like to see more content like this overall, or you'd like to learn more about camper vans and how to build them, please be sure to subscribe as well. And you're on social media too, on Instagram and...
Not really.
Okay.
We have them, but if you find anything, you will probably, your question will be, are you still open? Because we very seldom get the time or chance to...
You're very, very busy people. I completely understand. Well, that's it. James, thanks once again. Thank you everybody at home for watching. I'd love to have your feedback on the video. Do you want to see more of this? Do you want to go deeper down the rabbit hole of capacities? But you tell me the terminology people might want to hear.
Well, we can talk about, you know, amp hours of battery or watt hours for energy store, because that covers different voltages. We can talk about inverter sizes, charge rates, cable thicknesses, solar panel sizes.
It's a huge minefield. So if you want to know more and you want to learn more from James or myself, or a combination of us both, in vehicles and out of vehicles on the table like this, please be sure to let us know down in the comments. Thank you so much, and we shall see you next time on Combe Valley Campers. Bye-bye.